Internet! I'm Hugo. Welcome to Hugo and Jake. Today we're going to be tackling Chapter 6 in Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Women. Oh god. At least we're on Rule 6. We're like, at the end of this we'll be... not
halfway?
By page number we won't be halfway,
Sure,
but by content,
rule number
we'll be halfway through.
So, I live streamed me reading through this for a small audience, and I don't want to do it again, but I'm doing it again. Here we go! This is called Set Your House in Perfect Order Before You Criticize the World. And did you know that this will have nothing to do with that title? So, here we go. Are you guys ready for the religious Jordan Peterson chapter? Because here's another one. 6-1 in a row. What's the first sentence?
It does not seem reasonable to describe the young man who shot 20 children and 6 staff members at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012 as a religious person.
What?
Was he religious? I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. He goes on to basically say, and we'll get into this in more detail, but he talks about Tolstoy, he talks about basically, we talked about in earlier chapters how he says atheists aren't really atheists, they're just religious towards other things. So,
this entire book is an anti-atheist liberal propaganda.
Basically, because he says the people who shot people at Sandy Hook weren't religious, which would make them atheists, though he considers atheists religious in a different way. So the only people who are atheists aren't atheists. Atheists are religious toward atheism in his position. The only people who are actually atheists are people who murder themselves and others.
Because, of course, they have no value for capital B being.
And anything you use to describe that, including secular humanism to him, is religion.
Yeah.
Because he has apparently never met a religious person or had that word defined for him. Moving on. And it's not only the obviously suffering who are tormented by the need to blame someone or something for the intolerable state of being. At the height of his fame, influence, and creative power, for example, the towering Leo Tolstoy himself began to question the value of human existence.
Did you see what he did there again? He cited someone and then called them towering. And, of course, Leo Tolstoy, famous author, and so, he, of course, whatever he says is fucking manna from heaven. Anything he says is absolutely the words we live by, because I agree with Jordan Peterson.
My position was terrible. I knew that I could not find nothing in the way of rational knowledge except a denial of life, and in faith I could find nothing except a denial of reason, and this was even more impossible than a denial of life. According to rational knowledge, it followed that life is evil, and people know it. They do not have to live, yet they have lived, and they do live, just as I myself have lived, even though I had known for a long time that life is meaningless and evil. That's Tolstoy.
Yeah, so this is basically life is painful, and we know this. Why do we continue to do so?
This is the one time that something is actual nihilism, and he doesn't call it nihilism.
It's weird.
It's weird.
I expected him to use
be
the
like,
word. Yeah.
This is nihilism. That is nihilism.
Yeah.
But he doesn't call it nihilism because as far as Jordan B. Peterson is concerned, how he describes the rest of the chapter, Tolstoy isn't just describing nihilism.
No.
He considers what Tolstoy is describing as the only philosophical route to view this, because the rest of this chapter goes about assuming that that is now your base view of the world and is going to build upon that. But there are other ways to view things. Nihilism is one branch of philosophy that not a lot of people ascribe to, because nihilists tend to kill themselves. Or at the very least, not very fun at parties.
Yeah.
So, you have people, absurdists who look at this same exact struggle and they say, well, yeah, life isn't perfect, life is fucked up, a lot of bad things happen, we don't understand why, but you need to take pleasure in it anyway and just sort of understand and live in that middle place where things don't make sense, things are absurd, but that's okay.
A less extreme version of the comedian from Watchmen, or an even less extreme version of the Joker.
Sure.
Is probably a pretty absurdist take with murderous tendencies, but
And then on the opposite side of the spectrum from nihilism, there's existentialism, which says essentially the opposite. There is no reason in the world, or at least there is no order that we can see from a conscious being. All that happens is random cause and effect.
Yeah.
So all we can do is try and do the best and create our own goals and stay true to them and stay true to who we are as a person.
And I think that's what most people without religion end up on.
Sure.
Is existentialism.
But Jordan Peterson completely ignores that those concepts even exist. He says Tolstoy's...
And there's many concepts other than those two. But...
Right. He implies Tolstoy's nihilism is the viewpoint from which everyone is viewing the world currently.
But he doesn't call it nihilism, and he doesn't even... I don't know if he understands that it's nihilism.
Because he called a car nihilistic in the last chapter, but he won't call actual nihilism nihilism.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. And I guess the way that I was thinking about this when I had read it on stream is, if life doesn't need meaning to be meaningful. And I know that sounds like it doesn't make sense, but it really does.
Life doesn't need
capital M meaning.
It doesn't need ultimate meaning.
Right. Well, that's, I guess, what I mean by capital M. But yeah, ultimate meaning. It doesn't need... Life doesn't have to be a test to get to an afterlife, because that's what Jordan Peterson, without saying, I believe this, absolutely, obviously believes. It doesn't need that. And I think as an atheist, most of you are that. A ridiculous majority of you are that. You would agree with me that life doesn't actually need any sort of... You don't need a coach. You don't need a set of rules to live by to find meaning in even mundane things. You could find meaning in making a fucking salad. It might not be a lot of meaning, but it's a little bit of meaning. Sure. You could find meaning in having a pet that you love, or making a child, or having friends, or playing a video game. It doesn't really matter. The idea that there's some ultimate goal beyond just existing in this sort of cosmic lottery we've all won together is silly to me, and it's a little sad that he thinks that life is meaningless outside of, I don't know, this sort of, in a world where cosmic consciousness doesn't exist.
It's like Jordan Peterson was presented with a canvas, a blank canvas, and he said, "This means nothing. There's nothing here."
Yeah. But it's a canvas that you can draw on.
But the point is, the paints are in front of you. You can paint on this canvas and make your own meaning and try and do something constructive for yourself and others. He doesn't see it that way, though. He sees it the nihilistic way. Therefore...
He does not understand how nihilistic he actually is.
Nope. By June of 2016, unbelievable as it may seem, there had been 1,000 mass killings, defined as 4 or more people shot in a single incident, excluding the shooter, in the U.S. in 1,260 days.
I will throw this out there. Mass killings doesn't necessarily mean shot by a gun.
Yep.
But I do like that shot is the way we assume a mass killing is done. And so Jordan Peterson just lost points with the NRA, right? And his right-wing bros.
You know, I don't know how he feels about guns because he's Canadian. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. I'd like to see... Did you see that... this is a little aside, but it kind of goes into the conversation of his right-wing audience. Did you see he said that Kavanaugh should step down if he is confirmed?
Okay. He said a good thing.
He said a good thing, and then proceeded to backpedal as much as possible after
his fans were mad. Weird. It's almost like he doesn't have any actual system of values.
He tried to.
He's just chasing money.
He tried to couch it in terms of like, at first, like, you know, it's a dignified response, you know, because of the allegations, and then it was like, he should. Yeah, but I mean, like, it could be true. It could be. We could get a better candidate. And I agree with him, but he's trying to be like,
it's okay.
I'm on your team, guys.
It's okay to come out and say, don't let the rapist on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, or just alleged rapist that had a really bad reaction to the whole process.
I'll say rapist.
We can, but you don't have to. I'm going to be the other person that says alleged rapist, because, you know, sham of an investigation. But beyond that, if you're for Kavanaugh, leave. And if you haven't left yet, consider that the way he acted during that doesn't really show me that he deserves a lifetime fucking post. You could have easily gotten someone as conservative without the baggage, but what you wanted was to own the libs. And I think that's going to bite you in the ass.
It is. He's an anti-fucking Fourth Amendment corporatist piece of shit.
Yeah.
Drain the fucking swamp. What are you doing?
Fill the swamp with rapists.
That's one such event on every 5 of every 6 days for more than 3 years. Everyone says we don't understand. How can we still pretend that? Tolstoy understood more than a century ago. The ancient authors of the biblical story of Cain and Abel understood as well, more than 20 centuries ago. They described murder as the first act of post-Edenic society, Edenic meaning
Eden.
post-Eden.
Post-Eden.
And not just murder, but fratricidal murder. Murder not only of someone innocent, but of someone ideal and good. And murder done consciously despite the creator of the universe.
By the way, I don't know if Jordan Peterson has actually read Cain and Abel with any sort of, like, synthesis of the information. Because Cain and Abel, the reason the brother is ideal and good is because he offers meat and not vegetables. It's not because he's actually a good person. It's about appeasing a god in the correct way. It's not about the actions of a person and their virtue therein.
Yeah.
It's literally about the god liking meat sacrifices. That's it.
Yeah.
And
dude was a farmer, so he couldn't.
And what it is in religious terms is, as a Jewish book, it's an allegory to represent the fact that when we sacrifice to this god, we give them meat. We give them meat, and some people are not going to like that you do that for your god, and you will have enemies due to the fact that you do this for your god, right? And then he gets killed by his brother. And
are you telling me the people who wrote the Old Testament weren't trying to get across a story about nihilism?
You know,
I don't think there were a lot of nihilists.
By the way,
in ancient Judea,
it's not even Judea. This is like pre-countries. This is after the flood.
You know what I mean?
I know.
That area of the world.
It'd be more
Fertile Crescent.
It'd be Mesopotamia, not Judea. So modern day Iraq, not modern day Israel. But beyond that point, he's going to make the case here. Is it Cain or Abel? It's Cain. He's going to make that Cain is like a nihilist, and I guess that means an atheist, even though he was actively he's actively giving vegetables as sacrifice to a god.
You see what happens when you redefine words?
Yeah, it doesn't.
They end up meaning nothing.
It means nothing at all.
This is crazy. Even for a mind as profound as that of the celebrated Russian author, there was no way out. How can the rest of us manage when a man of Tolstoy's stature admits defeat? For years he hid his guns from himself and would not walk with a rope in hand, in case he hanged himself. How can a person who is awake avoid outrage at this world? This is what is known in a therapeutic setting as catastrophizing. And I think ContraPoints pointed this out in her video on incels, but it is a very, very real thing.
Okay.
Jordan Peterson has a tendency to catastrophize.
Yes.
Catastrophizing starts with little things like, oh, the world's not great. Bad things happen. Injustices happen. Oh my god, the world is unjust. Oh my god, if the world is unjust, then nothing matters. Oh my god, if nothing matters, my life is pointless. If nothing matters, I should kill myself. I should kill others. It starts with a small thing, and then you you go down this line of thoughts that makes no sense, makes everything dire, heightens everything to these epic levels of, like, verbose epic tragedy. Things aren't just sad. I am morose and the world is an empty pot for none. I don't know, I can't.
Empty pot for none.
I'm not Jordan
Pretty
Peterson.
close.
I'm not, you get the idea, though.
So basically,
he gets all
the
this...
idea that one person named Leo Tolstoy, who I think was probably a good author, right?
Probably an alcoholic.
Probably an alcoholic. Probably also, obviously, at least had clinical depression, if not bipolar disorder, and more because he had such dire swings,
right,
apparently, that he had to avoid weapons.
Yeah.
that he wouldn't off himself due to like his catastrophic levels of existential dread. Like, this is not how most people act. Was Leo Tolstoy an intellectual giant? Really?
I don't know.
He was a good writer. Like, if you can express yourself in writing to the degree that Leo Tolstoy could and other authors can, like, it doesn't make you an intellectual juggernaut. It just makes you good at expressing feelings and thoughts that many people have. It doesn't mean we have to prostrate ourselves to fucking Leo Tolstoy and go, "You're right, life is fucking pointless." Did you know that people with stature in anything can be wrong about anything? Like, it's always appeals with Jordan. Always it's an appeal to an authority, or an appeal to age, an appeal to culture, an appeal to influence. It's fucking weird, and it doesn't make any sense, and they're bad. They're really bad debate.
They're bad
tools.
Non-arguments.
They're really bad, and like, you could easily just say, and here's a case that Leo Tolstoy makes. Here's why I agree. Not Leo Tolstoy makes the case, therefore we ought to agree.
A religious man might shake his fist in desperation at the apparent injustice and blindness of God. Even Christ himself felt abandoned before the cross, or so the story goes. A more agnostic or atheistic individual might blame fate or meditate bitterly on the brutality of chance.
An agnostic or atheistic person might blame fate? Fate has this sort of, like,
deterministic.
Yeah. This is not how we think.
There are some atheists who are deterministic, I'd imagine.
Sure, but it's not enough. I don't think the word fate is so much more loaded than it's determined because we can't prove that we're not deterministic in nature. Like, that's a philosophical question of kind of like definitions.
Yeah.
Fate itself implies a consciousness behind the determinism.
It can. I get what you're saying.
I think it mostly does, but yeah, okay.
Loaded. Another might tear himself apart searching for the character flaws underlying his suffering and deterioration. These are all variations on a theme. The name of the target changes, but the underlying psychology remains consistent. Why? Why is there such suffering and cruelty? Perhaps it is really God's doing, or the fault of a blind, pointless fate. If you are inclined to think that way, and there appears to be every reason to think that way, but what happens if you do? Mass murderers believe that the suffering attendant upon existence justifies judgment and revenge, as the Columboy boys so clearly indicated.
So
he's literally saying there, sure, you can be an atheist, but if you do, you're gonna murder children.
Right, like the Columbine kids. I went, like, he talks about, and he'll do many quotes of, like, the Columbine memoirs, and I think he mentions the tape they did.
Sure.
That school project or whatever. Like, these kids are not ideal examples of any person in any demographic, right? No. They're not just ideal. I mean, like, not even accurate representations of any demographic that they represent.
Sure.
They are outliers. Do you know why I know they're outliers? Because it was so rare we remember Columbine and the names of the kids that did it. Like, and there's movies about it, and it's a commonly talked about thing. I mean, when you mention Columbine, to a lesser degree, it has the same gravity as a 9/11.
Sure.
When you say 9/11, when you say Columbine, these are benchmark moments in American history. And they're there for a reason. Not because all atheists that are also nihilists do this, but because it's so rare. It's and it's just fucking, it's dishonest. It's so dishonest.
Yeah, especially considering some of the mass shooters we've had recently, which are not motivated by nihilism. A lot of it's motivated by right-wing nationalistic tendencies, some racist tendencies. Heather Heyer got killed by a dude who hit her with a fucking car. Yeah. That dude wasn't a nihilist, he was a nationalist.
Did we get any idea about the Vegas shooter? I think he's the only one that I'm it's pretty enigmatic right now.
I don't know. I didn't look into it after the fact.
Right. I don't think they found much.
I don't know.
Anyway, if anyone knows about that, I'd be interested. But he shot up a country music festival.
That church shooting a while back, I know.
Dylan Roof?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan, that was race. He was trying to do a race riot.
Yeah.
I mean, almost every... fucking Sandy Hook. I forget his motivation, but he had an actual motivation. He talked about it. These aren't nihilistic. It's not like They can be, absolutely. I'm sure that's happened. But like the Pulse nightclub shooting, anti-gay, like these have reasons. It's not like life is meaningless, let's kill people and then off ourselves, which I'm sure happened. I wouldn't be surprised if the Las Vegas shooter was that. He was a guy with a lot of money, and let's just give the benefit of the doubt to Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
Las Vegas shooter, worst in history, right?
Okay.
But basically none of the other ones are that.
Yeah.
So, maybe sometimes. I absolutely grant that that's a possibility, but, like, you're writing as if it's a fact that it happens every single time. I don't think
He does that. He lies by implication.
Yep.
One of the most vengeful murderers of the 20th century, the terrible Karl Panzeram, was raped, brutalized, and betrayed in Minnesota, institution responsible for his rehabilitation. When he was a delinquent juvenile, he emerged enraged beyond measure as a burglar, arsonist, rapist, and serial killer. He aimed consciously and consistently at destruction, even keeping track of the dollar value of the property he burned. He started by hating the individuals who had hurt him. His resentment grew until his hatred encompassed all of mankind, and he didn't stop there. His destructiveness was aimed in the fundamental manner at God himself. There is no other way of phrasing it.
I really think there is other ways of phrasing it.
No, there's no other ways you will phrase it, because you think by phrasing it this way, you've decided, I have won the argument. No, Jordan, you didn't. You don't get to just define things.
Even if he said, I'm mad at God himself, that wasn't the only reason. You stated the reasons. He was mistreated in a place that he was supposed to receive treatment from.
Right.
And he was betrayed by caretakers. Every single person in his life apparently was shitty to him, or at least most of them. Enough to the fact that he would repeat the crimes committed on himself to other people and keep a tally because it was a revenge tactic. It wasn't nihilism.
How can you describe that as he puts it, the only way you could phrase it, fundamentally at God himself? No, it's at others.
It's not. And again, even if that guy said, I am solely mad at God himself, the actions imply otherwise. Also the reasons.
Yeah.
So,
the same thing happens in the story of Cain and Abel. Cain's sacrifices are rejected. He exists in suffering. He calls out God and challenges the being he created. God refuses his plea. He tells Cain that his trouble is self-induced. Cain in his rage kills Abel, God's favorite, and truth be known, Cain's idol. Where did you get that from?
That's not
in the Bible.
And truth be known, you're fucking lying.
You can't just make shit up, Jordan.
Right.
Stop
Even
it.
if the Bible's true, even if we've been wrong our whole career.
It's like he thinks parentheticals are like, I can lie in between these lines, right?
Right.
I can just say stuff and it doesn't matter.
The fact, and a Jordan Peterson fan might say, you're nitpicking. If he can't even be right about simple thing, like, that's like page 3. If he can't be right about that, and I know that's a little bit of a genetic fallacy, how the fuck can you expect him to be right about the big stuff?
Yeah. Cain is jealous, of course, of his successful brother, but he destroys Abel primarily to spite God. This is the truest version of what happens when people take their vengeance to the ultimate extreme. Again, he's reading that all into the story. None of that is explicit or implicit within the story. At best, we get he's mad because God won't sacrifice. He's mad at his brother. We don't get... You can imply a jealousy, but again, it's never stated in those terms. Also, at best, it's a jealousy because the other brother's job is what God wants him to produce, whereas he has been relegated to growing vegetables. You know what I mean?
Vegetables are good, though, man. Honestly, if you were doing that in 2018, you would have a nice little place in Portland and be just fine.
Panzeram's response was, and this is what was so terrible, perfectly understandable. The details of his autobiography reveal that he was one of Tolstoy's strong and logically consistent people. He was a powerful, consistent, fearless actor. He had the courage of his convictions. And this is what scares me about...
serial killer?
This is what scares me about Jordan Peterson's writings. He looks at stuff like this and says it's the norm.
Yeah.
He normalizes this anger, and he tells young men,
yeah,
if you are angry and feel like putting that outward, that's normal. No.
Yeah.
It is not normal, Jordan Peterson. It is not normal, Jordan Peterson fans. And if you are feeling that way, you should seek help. And
he's gonna say that this is a bad thing, by the way. He's going to move on in this chapter and say, like, but we don't want people to act like that. But you romanticize it so much.
He describes him as a powerful, consistent, fearless actor. A rapist and serial killer. Imagine you're a Jordan Peterson incel fan, and you read that.
And by the way, this isn't that bad if he's just a guy, but the way these people fucking worship him, and this is a self-help book. This is supposed to guide people's lives. Like, come on, dude. Like, this is... you think the all meat diet is bad enough? You think the lies about his apple cider sleepless month is bad? Like, no, the guy just can't not lie. And he just can't not.
The normalization and glorification of anger and revenge is a consistent through line, and it's very weird. It's very weird, and it's off-putting and not good for people reading the book. When the hurricane hit New Orleans and the town sank under the waves, was that a natural disaster?
Can we all both agree that yes, that was a natural disaster?
The Dutch prepare their dikes for the worst storm in 10,000 years. Had New Orleans found that example, no tragedy would have occurred. A hurricane is an act of God, but failure to prepare when the necessity for the preparation is well known. That's sin.
He just called Hurricane Katrina the result of sin.
You're nailing this.
Guys, Jordan Peterson, Professor Jordan Peterson of the University of Toronto, just said the natural disaster in 2005 of Hurricane Katrina. Was it 2005?
Yeah.
He called a hurricane the result of sin.
If he just wanted to say it's their fault for not being prepared, he wouldn't use this verbiage.
It's...
Because you would say it like I just said it, like a normal human
Their
being.
fault for not being prepared! God damn it.
You fucking...
God fucking damn it, guys.
Yeah. Have you cleaned up your life? If the answer is no, here's something to try. Start to stop doing what you know to be wrong.
Wow, that is a stupid bumper sticker.
Start stopping today. Don't waste time questioning how you know what you're doing is wrong if you are certain that it is. Inopportune questioning can confuse without enlightening, as well as deflecting from action. You can know why something is wrong or right without knowing why. Your entire being can tell you something that you can neither explain nor articulate. He is saying there... just feels over reels, guys. He's literally saying it.
Doesn't Ben Shapiro like this guy?
I think so. He literally just said, just feel it out. If you hate the gays, it's if you feel it. You don't have to justify it.
Nope. Being, capital B being, will guide your way. Basically, this is an inherent guidance from a god.
This is how Jordan Peterson justifies all his bullshit. Yep. That he can't logically justify. He's smart enough to realize, this tells me, a lot of his bullshit is bullshit, but he doesn't want to admit that, so he has to throw in this, well, sometimes you just feel it out.
Right. And again,
What about feminists that are just feeling it out, Jordan? You don't seem to like them.
What about people who aren't capitalists?
What about Marxists? They're just feeling it out.
They're feeling it out wrong, though, you see. They're nihilists. They're gonna murder folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trans people, they're just feeling it out?
They're just feeling it out, but it's wrong. You're feeling that you got a vagoo, but you should really have a ding-ding and just keep it.
See, this is the problem with this, because Jordan Peterson feels, ew, icky, but a trans person feels like, I don't want to have a dick anymore.
You're right. I'm not a man. I am a woman.
Jordan Peterson, you being grossed out by something for some reason doesn't make it valid. Sorry. Anyway, you can use your own standards of judgment. You can rely on yourself for guidance. You don't have to adhere to some external arbitrary code of behavior.
Why are we here then?
For this parenthetical. Although you should not overlook the guidelines of your culture. The Bible! He means the Bible! You think a Muslim fan has ever walked up to Jordan Peterson like, oh, I started reading the Quran.
Yeah.
And thank you, thank you for getting me in touch with Islam again. And Jordan Peterson's like, no.
Yeah.
I meant
Christianity.
I meant Christianity.
Yeah, I meant that.
Your dog whistles need to be louder, Jordan. Life is short, and you don't have time to figure everything out on your own. The wisdom of the past was hard-earned, and your dead ancestors have something useful to tell you. Buy slaves!
No, thank you.
I'm George Washington!
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This is my favorite sentence he wrote, because it's so... Don't blame capitalism, the radical left, or the inequity of your enemies. Jordan Peterson! You blame the left for everything! Constantly! What?
He has to read chapter 6 again.
I guess so. He just wrote it, he didn't read it.
Yeah, that's fine.
He just opens his mouth and comes out.
Lies!
No, not everyone has the time to read it. When Jordan Peterson speaks, it'd be like if you tried to read your SpaghettiOs. It's just not gonna work out.
Don't blame capitalism. By the way, you can blame each one of those things for things. You can absolutely do that. I don't know why it's here.
I don't know. And maybe your anxiety and hopelessness and resentment and anger, however murderous initially, will recede.
Maybe your murder tendencies will just go away by themselves? What? Jordan, no!
Do not tell people with murderous, revengeful intent. Just sit with it for a while.
No!
Because you know what happens to those people?
Like murder
They
folks.
shoot up schools! You
Oh!
idiot! Jordan, you're gonna get someone killed if you haven't already. Because some stupid asshole's gonna read this book, and they're gonna see you glorifying the shit out of the strong, full of his convictions, serial killer rapist.
Yeah, you know, that...
Subtext and context overwrites the message. Always, always, always. And you are glorifying the murderer and rapist in the way you have framed what you have written. You can then say after the fact, but he was wrong. But you've essentially just American history X'd this. You've made a movie where you've made Nazis look really badass, but then you're like, but don't be one. But aesthetically, Nazis love that fucking movie. Because it makes Nazis look badass. You know what I mean?
I like that movie.
You can like that movie, that's fine. But a lot of Nazis also like that movie.
Isn't that weird? I don't know why.
Because they think it makes Nazism look badass.
Yeah. But then Edward Furlong, though.
I agree. Maybe
Yeah.
they don't watch it till the end. They get to the curb stop and they're like, I'm good.
Yeah, that was fine.
Anyway. So that's it.
I always think about how the foleying on that teeth on the concrete.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ugh. Anyway, that's the end of that.
So next time, Rule 7, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
By the way, you might be thinking to yourself, Hugo and Jake, he didn't mention how to put your fucking house in order.
No!
No, he didn't. He doesn't at all.
He just said everyone's a nihilist, so be a Christian if you don't want to shoot kids. That's what that chapter was about. When he says put your house in order, he means become a Christian before you go shoot up a school.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here to translate for everyone.
I honestly thought clean your room, bucko thing was happening.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me to clean anything. He just said put your house in order, but it didn't have anything to do with... Like, this is a good opportunity. Sorry to elbow your knee. This was a good opportunity for some advice that sometimes he gives decent advice. We mentioned that in the parenting chapter. Sometimes there's little nuggets of like, yeah, that makes sense. This was a good idea to be like, hey, every day, like, I don't know, try to make your bed. Try to make your bed because it's a goal that you can set and achieve, and it'll feel like you tick something off your list. A lot of people do that for kind of a self-help thing. A lot of people like to make lists and check things
absolutely.
off. Making your bed is a common one for people that get stuck in ruts.
Achieving little goals.
Small goals.
This chapter's goal was become a Christian so you don't shoot people.
Fucking weird, man. Like,
why are you reading Jordan Peterson? He's not religious. He just hasn't admitted it yet.
We're in chapter 6 now, guys. Chapter 6, and he's still religious. So, again, if you're a Jordan Peterson fan, why? Why the fuck are you continuing to do that to yourself? It doesn't make any sense. If you're an atheist, and you've read this book, which I don't think you have, if you've read this book, and you're still an atheist, but also a Jordan Peterson fan, I don't know how you do it. He's saying you're bad.
He doesn't respect you or your your like ideological positions at all.
He doesn't find your stance valid in any way. And he really thinks that if you're an actual atheist, you're a murderer, which makes him think that all atheists are just bad people. Which fucking weird.
Or
And and not even on top of that, it's not even like this. Like there's a big layer on top where there's like a lot of useful information.
It's a thin veneer of self-help crap over top of it, and it's annoying.
I genuinely expected when we started reading this book to have to look for things I disagreed with more often than he would just hand them to me. Like I thought I would have to, because his fans make it sound so complex. His fans make him think like he's so cerebral and shit, and he's talking above the normal vernacular. He's not. He's fucking simplistic. He's dumb. He's a very verbose person. He's got a lot of really good vocab words.
That's all he's got.
And I really don't think he's good at philosophy.
The way he puts them together are trash.
He's not good. I think he's smart in the way he knows that this makes him money, and he knows why it makes him money. I don't think he's smart in the way he goes about trying to argue these things. That said, it's tricked a lot of you. So maybe I give you too much credit.
Anyway, I guess that's it. Halfway through.
Halfway fucking through.
Then we're gonna have to probably buy Maps of Meaning.
I really don't want to do that one.
That one's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I'd like to take a break from Jordan Peterson.
We will. We'll do some other stuff. Maybe talk about solar roadways.
No! Yeah. If we could find a way to combine Anita and solar roadways, we would make millions of dollars. Millions.
Hundreds.
Tens of dollars. Okay, so that's it for this. You can get more of the other chapters if you haven't seen them already. There's stuff on there for the channel. What are we doing Friday? Oh! Friday we have a Chick Tract with a guest!
Oh, who's the guest?
Jeff Holiday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, been meaning to do that for a while. Haven't done it. Jeff Holiday of Dr. Phil fame. He was on Dr. Phil.
Which episode was that?
I'm here on the Dr. Phil show because I want to confront Jillian Epperly about the dangerous practices that she's spreading on the internet.
He argued against the Jilly Juice stuff, the cabbage saltwater lady that people like shit themselves to death. Yeah. So
a guy I watched just drank some of that on his channel.
Miles Power.
Yeah.
Friend of Jeff.
Yeah.
Friend of Jeff. Son of Zool.
You can always follow us on Twitter at PapaBirdJ.
You can follow Hugo Reloaded. You can also subscribe to the channel. Make sure you get more Jordan Peterson. We got 12 more rules and I think a post, like an afterword to read. So
if you want to support us on Patreon, the link is in the description. We also have a link there to our Discord where you can hang out with lots of other cool people.
They're very cool. And if you go to the Discord, you can make sure you never miss an episode if it doesn't show up in your sub box because there's an announcement when we upload.
Yeah. Other than that, you can also check out our latest review of Doctor Who over at Who Cares. We also do our D&D stream over there. Very excited for the new season of Doctor Who.
Okay, that's it. Don't murder people, because even if your life doesn't have ultimate meaning, it does have some meaning, and so do other people's lives.
And if you're having feelings of murder or suicide, please get help, because that is not something you can just sit on and hope it gets better, unlike the licensed therapist Jordan Peterson seems to tell you to do. Just sit on those murderous thoughts. That's fine.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Instead, realize that hurting other people isn't great. Because
how has the Canadian Psychological Board not stripped him of his license yet?
I will be very surprised if he finishes his career with that license. I would be very surprised.
We'll see what happens.
Maybe they have really loose laws on this.
I don't know. I'll have to check it out. I was talking to my actual therapist. I read him some quotes, and she was like,
"Yeah,
no, don't do that." She was like, How does he have a?" She was surprised, and again, the standards might be different, but she was like. And again, he's mostly in a teaching role at this point.
Yep.
But...
Surprised. Very surprised.
We'll see what happens. Does he have tenure? He probably has tenure.
Oh, probably. I don't know.
Anyway.
He's got tenure with Ruben as well. Ruben just... This is not a gay joke, even though Ruben is gay. He sucks Jordan Peterson's dick constantly.
Is Ruben gay?
Yeah, Ruben's gay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I just hate him because he's an asshole then.
Yeah,
Great.
Fuck Dave Rubin. Fuck him.
So, until next time, I'm Hugo.
Jake.
Want to get some cider?
Kinda, yeah.